Hi, how are you? How was your week? I don't know what you would do if I didn't say how was your week. You'd be like, oh my God, what happened to her? It's a pretty good winter, I think. I'm having a good winter. It's not too cold, not too snowy. I don't have to close, and I can still walk. Around this time, and I don't know exactly which day it is, we have something that's called Three Kings Day. I don't know if the Methodists actually call it that, but it's around the time that we have another story that has to do with the birth of Jesus. And I was looking at that story and trying to figure out, how does this work in my life? And so I looked up the story, and so you can find most of it in Matthew. So in Matthew chapter 2, this is verses 1 through 23. Just listen to the story. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king, wise men came from the east. They came to Jerusalem saying, "Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." When Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And he assembling, because he didn't know, that there was a king being born, and he brought together all the chief priests and scribes of the people and asked them where the king was to be born. And they told him, in Bethlehem of Judea. So after they listened to the king, they went on their way. And behold, the star that they had seen when it rose went before them until it came to rest over the place where the child was. Now, here's the thing. In Matthew 2:11, it says, going into the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they fell down and worshipped him and offered him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh. Now, from that line, I think that we see he was not a baby at the time. He was a child, and they were not in a stable. They were in a house. What does that mean? It means they didn't get there right away. They had a really long trip. They had to follow this star for years, because you're talking child, not baby. It was a long trip. And I can't imagine it was an easy trip. They came to see what was going on. And I don't know if they knew that this child came from God, but I know that they knew there was something special. So for years, they walked. And they rode their camels if they had them, I don't know. And they carried their gifts, and they kept going. And they probably went through a lot of hardships to get to this child, to get to this child of God. There's a lot of stories like that in the Bible, of people that have been through tough times, suffering. There's a guy named Job, which you probably know more about than I do, but I looked it up. This guy Job lived in the land of Uz. He was an honest man. He honored God and stayed away from evil. He owned a bunch of animals and a lot of servants. And one day, Satan came with the angels and said to the Lord, they started talking back and forth. But what ended up happening was Job had a bunch of stuff happen to him. His animals got destroyed. He lost his servants over and over and over again. His family got affected by all of this. Lightning came from the sky and burned everything up. Other places came and sent attackers to attack the animals and the servants. And then all his children died. This is what happened. At the end, Job said, "I was naked when I was born, and I will be naked when I die. The Lord gave these things to me, and he taken them away. Praise the name of the Lord. And all of this, Job did not blame God. So, now how does this affect us? Well, I'll tell you, we all have stuff. We all have suffering. We all have something that is really, really hard to go through. And whether it's us going through it, or our parents, or our children, or our best friends, whether it's something that's physical, or emotional, or financial, or having to do with a job, we all have stuff that we go through. And sometimes more and more and more and more things, like Job. One thing would happen and then another. He'd lose his animals and the servants would get killed, and then he'd get more animals and more servants and they would get killed, and then the fires came, and then he lost his kids. And he still prayed. And he didn't really pray for nothing to happen. He just said, listen, I'm here. I believe in you. Now, this is not to say that when you go through hard times, don't worry about it. Because you know what? You're going to worry about it. I have friends who are going through a lot of rough stuff. I have friends who went through a lot of rough stuff. And it's hard and scary. But you get through it. There's an end. I talked about this in the very beginning when I started doing these videos. Things change. This too shall pass. Things change. Things get better. I know that it doesn't feel like it. I know that that we all of us, me, feel like this is going to happen forever. This bad thing, this not being able to find a job. I'm never going to be able to find a job. I'm never going to get healthy. I'm always going to have something make me sick. I'm always going to live in an apartment, never be able to buy a house. I'm never going to have enough money to do that. That's the thinking. The reality is different. The reality is it's not going to last forever. The reality is, if you're still alive and you're still sane, for the most part, you're getting through it. And in my head, that's God. It's a God thing. That's God saying, listen, I got you through this. I'm going to get you through the next thing and the next thing. Life is not always positive. It's not always easy. It's not always fun. Sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes you think you can't handle it anymore. Sometimes you're wondering, why am I doing this? Why do I keep doing this? And I could tell you that if you go through it, you'll get stronger, and that could be true, but maybe it's not worth it. But here's the thing. There is a plan. I don't know what it is. My mom got hurt a long time ago, and I asked her, aren't you mad at God? And she said, no, God didn't cause this. She got hit by a car. God didn't make it. What God did was got her through it. Now, I don't know. Does God cause these things to happen? Did God make my friend sick? Did God make Kenny sick? Did God cause somebody else that I know to not be able to buy a house? I don't know. I do know that he helps us through it. And I also know good things happen again. Good times happen again. I have a friend that lost her family. Not her whole family, but a big part of it. But then, her family, her kids, they keep going. They get married, they have kids, They have a life together. Life is hard, but you get through that stuff. And sometimes you get through it just in time for the next thing to happen. That's what happened to Job. He got through it just in time for the next thing to happen. But at the end, he said, I still believe in you. I still am here for you, which means he got through it. You know, the three kings, the three wise men, I don't know what they went through, but I can't imagine it was easy, that trip that took so long. But in the end, they got to see Jesus. They got to see what they were following. They got to give him their gifts. They got to connect with the Son of God. Unbelievable. They went through this tough time. And they got, I can't even imagine, that connection in person with the Son of God. Job went through trial after trial after trial, and in the end, he was with God. Here's what I know. I know bad things happen. I know really, really bad things happen to basically everyone. I also know this. God helps you through it. You get through it. It happens to me. It happens to people I love. You get through it. You still remember. It's still part of your life, your story, but you survive. So that's what I want to say. I want you to survive. So if you're going through something really tough right now, please keep in the back of your head, I will survive this. I will get through this. There will be happier things coming. Maybe some tough things again, but we'll get through that too. If you think about the story of the three wise men, and if you think about that journey that they took for years, they didn't know where they were going. They just kept following this star. And they ended up with Jesus. We can do that too. We can be like them. We could be like Job and say, okay, I know this is tough, but I know you're going to get me through this. And you find people to help you. Find people you could talk to. I think God puts them in our lives. So just remember, it's not going to last forever. And you're going to get through it. And you're going to learn how to deal with it. If it's something that you can't change, you're going to learn how to deal with it the way it is. Please know, I truly believe this. I know it's going to be okay. And I know God's got this. Have a great week. I love you. I miss you a lot, but we'll be together soon. Have a good week.